Hello, my fellow concerned friends. Ignore the AC. I'm going to try to edit the video so that the audio kind of like cuts out the background noise. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So if I can't get it to work, please just bear with it. Okay, it's like super hot and humid outside, and I just can't be in here with no AC and the windows open because I literally feel like I'm going to melt. And my makeup probably will melt off. And then by the end of the video, it'll look like I'm crying. But once we talk about the subject and everything, I probably will be crying anyway. Not really, but it is really sad. So buckle up because we are going to be comparing The Truman Show, which is a movie. If you're not aware, your homework is to watch The Truman Show. If you've never seen it, that is your homework. You need to log off of the YouTube right now and go ahead onto Pluto TV. It's free. That's where I watched it. And there are ads, but that's your homework. Watch The Truman Show and then come back to this video and how The Truman Show compares to child exploitation. I know that's a big leap and nobody else has made the comparison. I am the first of the generation, if you will. But before we get into this video, please don't forget to subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And I just want to also say thank you to all of my subscribers. Thank you for being here. Thank you for engaging. Thank you for helping me build this community and push for the changes that I think need to happen in the world to protect our children. So enjoy this video. But when I was watching this movie, of course, I was thinking about all of the theories and like conspiracy theories and stuff about like, are we just living in the Truman Show? Are we just really advanced AI? Like, are we aliens? I love conspiracy theories. Trust me. I know all of them. There are specific parts that I was like, wait a second. All of these kids being shown online are literally experiencing the Truman Show. And I had to talk to you guys about it today. I know I said I was going to film a video with my husband today about purity culture, but he got busy doing other things and there's grass that needs to get cut and stuff. So that video will come, but it'll be coming at a later date. And also I was just really excited to talk about this because it's fresh on my mind and I'm disturbed. So let's get into it. So if you haven't seen The Truman Show and you're not going to do your homework, I guess I can just explain it to you a little bit. So basically, Truman was a baby, an unwanted baby, and at birth, he was adopted with a couple other babies to a company, not a family, not a person, to a company. And in this society, in this world, this company was like the first company to adopt a child. And what they decided to do with this child was build an entire city, an entire world for this child that they chose, and they chose Truman. Now, they did this in Hollywood. So basically, they created an entire studio that was the size of this city. And I mean, think about The Simpsons, you know, that episode where there was like that giant dome over the city? Think that, okay? Except inside of the dome, it's another city. It's like you're stepping into an entire other world. It's got its own economy. It's got, you know, everything that you could think of, except everybody in this city are actors, except for baby Truman. The entire concept is this company is monetizing off of Truman's existence. And nothing crazy happens. Like, Truman lives a pretty normal life, like, you know, like just a pretty standard, typical life. You know, he gets married. He's got a you know, a nice little office job. You know, he lives in like that perfect little white picket fence American world, if you will. And everybody are actors except for him, and he has no idea. So from birth, he is living in this studio. From birth, he was assigned his parents, and he's assigned his friends, and everybody is in on it except for Truman. I would also compare this to, have you guys seen Jury Duty? I don't remember what network I get. Oh my gosh, is it called networks anymore? Whatever. I don't know what app, whatever you watch Jury Duty on. I think it's Amazon. I'm not sure. But if you've seen Jury Duty, it's the exact same concept, except Jury Duty really happened. Like, we had like a real life, like, Truman Show example right there, where he was isolated from the outside world and forced to exist within this world of actors, and everyone's in on it except for him. And at the end of Jury Duty, whenever he realizes that it was all fake, none of it was real, he actually, if I remember right, ended up having to, you know, need some mental health help. What am I saying? I don't know what I'm saying, but he needed help with his mental health because he was struggling with like well, is my real life even my real life? Like if I was so easily tricked into that. So it's the same idea. Everyone is in on it except for Truman. Truman has no idea. And everything is being recorded. His birth, his first steps, his first bath is being recorded on thousands and thousands of cameras within the city, including cameras like on buttons and stuff, like spy cameras, if you will. And his life is being live streamed and broadcast to the whole world. And the whole world loves Truman. And Truman doesn't even know about this world. He has no idea anything about this world and that it even exists. But the whole world knows all about Truman. And it's not until he starts picking up on these subtleties that he starts to realize, I don't think I'm crazy. I think that I actually should get out of here. I think something fishy is going on. For instance, there is a scene where he is with his wife Meryl and he is trying to escape the city. They're trying to go to New Orleans, go anywhere but here. And they had orchestrated a stop to like a blockade so that he couldn't continue to go, because the further you go in this city, eventually you're going to hit the studio walls. And they have all different ways that they make the studio walls like hidden and stuff. It's a great movie. It was very well put together. But as they run up on this blockade, one of the police officers is like, no, you have to turn around. You have to turn around. There was like a leak at the plant and it's devastating and you absolutely cannot come around to this way, whatever. And so Truman's like, oh, like whatever, fine, okay, thanks, bye. And the officer says, you're welcome, Truman. And that's when Truman's like, how did you know my name?
Back up! Leak at the plant. They had to shut her down. Is there any way around? Whole area is being evacuated.
Is there anything I can do?
No, ma'am. Thank you for your help. You're welcome, Truman.
So how does the Truman Show relate to child exploitation at all? I know that after everything I just told you, you're probably thinking that's crazy because that's not happening. There's not live streams of children's entire lives. Yes. Actually, there are, aren't they? There absolutely are. We see them all over the place here on YouTube. There's even a whole Netflix documentary out called Bad Influence that covers one of these situations. And I have a lot to say about this because I really believe that all of these children who are these kid influencers and they've been on the internet since they were literal infants, even some having their births live streamed, because that does happen, and everything about all of their information has been documented and posted for the world to see. And I can't help but wonder how many kids, like for instance, baby Ren, if you remember Ren Eleanor from TikTok a couple years ago, I can't imagine how uncomfortable and scary it must be for a child who has grown up like this to become adults, and maybe they don't want anything to do with that fame anymore. Maybe they didn't even know that as a toddler they had a huge following, and adults will see them and pull the, oh, you're welcome, Truman. And they're like, wait, what? So what is child exploitation? So here's some definitions. A child is any person under the age of 18. Child trafficking is the recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt of children for the purpose of exploitation. A child is a victim of sex, for example, when they are induced to engage in prostitution or the making of pornography for the benefit of a third party without regard to the use of force, fraud, or coercion by that third party. Child exploitation. This is generally defined as involving a child in a sexual act for commercial gain. Examples include child pornography, child sex trafficking, sextortion, the live streaming of child sex, and child tourism. Exploitation. Exploitation can be defined as the act of involving a child for economic or other reasons in criminal activities. Exploitation may take place at the hands of parents, neighbors, schoolmates, cults, employers, etc. Exploitation for fraudulent purposes. This involves coercing or otherwise compelling a child to engage in activities that aid or abet the commission of fraud or another crime. Examples could include forced begging, a pickpocket, why can't I say that? A pickpocket using a child as a distraction, a thief or burglar using a child as a lookout, etc. So as we can see, when we're referring to child exploitation, it is a huge spectrum. Some forms of child exploitation have nothing to do with anything being filmed or posted or that child even being touched. Like it stated, a child being the lookout on a criminal activity is child exploitation. I was exploited by my grandmother when she would take me with her on her drug deals. I was exploited by my grandmother whenever she would take me with her to Walmart with the intentions of shoplifting because, you're less likely to get like looked at or caught, right, when you have a kid. And then if we would have been caught, guess who would have just got blamed for it? Me. I was the scapegoat. That's exploitation. Okay. And I was never touched inappropriately or like harmed by my grandmother. In fact, I loved my grandma so much till I grew up and realized all of the crazy shit she was making me do and putting me through and exposing me to. But unfortunately, when someone hears child exploitation, they immediately go to like the worst case scenarios, like sex tourism, like child and child trafficking and distribution of child material or distributing child sex explicit material. So when we're having these conversations, I want it to be very clear that, yeah, in my opinion, I think kidfluencers, I think people like Tiffany Smith and what she's doing to her daughter, and you could name anybody, and I'm going to say the same thing. I think that that's exploitation. And that doesn't mean that I'm saying that those children are being harmed or physically harmed. I think that it's still harmful to your child, that your child is being perceived by the entire world. And I asked myself when I was doing my research for this video, like, is there any information? Do we have any studies or anything that can give us a glimpse as to how this overwhelmingness of being perceived by the entire world is actually affecting them developmentally? Like, I almost kind of wish that there could be like the Truman Show Part 2 where it shows Truman's life after this life, where he's trying to just be a normal human in society, and yet all of society recognizes him. He doesn't get a chance to make a true, genuine friendship because everyone already knows everything about him because his entire life was broadcast to the whole world. I just like, I feel like we're not gonna get a study like that for a long time, not only because people aren't taking it seriously, but also because unfortunately we're gonna have to wait for all of these kids to grow up. And I don't mean turn 18, I mean actually grow up and have that moment of realization where they can actually just objectively look at their childhood and not through the lens of, oh wow, my mom was so awesome and I got all of these cool gifts and got to go on all of these trips, when they can really sit down and analyze what actually paid for those trips and those gifts. But I'm very interested to see if that happens. So while I was researching this, because I was trying to see if I could find something like that, some sort of study, and I did. Not exactly like that, but I think that it's very important to look at, and I actually have it here. Let me pull it up, and I'm not going to read the entire thing because it's pretty long, so I'll leave that down below for you guys. I definitely suggest reading through it. It's very telling, I'll say that much. But I do have some like key points that I want to mention in regards to how I feel like all of these kidfluencers are literally living the Truman Show. And all of you parents who are sitting here producing and directing it, and all of the viewers who are consuming, like, put yourself, like, watch the Truman Show, and if you support kidfluencers, you're the people on the TV freaking like actually getting entertainment out of a man's actual real life. And if you're the parent, you're the evil man with the earpiece telling the actors what to say to your child. Like, it's not okay. It's not okay, but let's get into this. Why internet users' perceptions of viewing child exploitation material matter for prevention policies. Okay, so I'm going to try to like just summarize this really quickly. Like I said, I'm not going to read this entire study because it is lengthy and detailed, which I think is great, but not great for me to just sit here and read a bunch of big fancy words. It takes me a long time for my brain to process what it's actually saying, and I have to reread it like 8 times before I actually understand what's being said. Oh, and not to mention the amount of times I have to Google what does this word mean. But you know, it's a really great way to learn and expand your brain. So don't let that scare you from reading it. I think it's very important. So I'm going to put an image on the screen, and this is table 1 from this study, and I'm going to explain it to you. So if you notice, it says like vignette or something. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm going to say scenario. So like scene, scenario, whatever, scenario 1 through 9. You have 9 scenarios here that were given to a group of about 500 participants in the study, and they go over how they ethically chose these participants and everything. So you can read all of that if you want to. And they asked them, after viewing or like being told about this material, is this a crime? Is this not a crime? Or are you like unsure if it's a crime or not? And it's very telling. So again, we're talking about child exploitation. This study focuses heavily on like exploitations, like child exploitation. However, I think that it really reveals a lot in regards to how uncaring people are with the kind of exploitation that we are seeing being so normalized right now. So please hang on with me, and hopefully you'll see what I saw, and the puzzle pieces will just fall together. But yeah, here we go. So in scenario 1, an image of a man engaged in an explicit sexual act with an 8-year-old girl. 95% says that's a crime, 2% says it's not a crime, and about 1.9% says I don't know. Scenario 2, a cartoon image of a man engaged in an explicit sexual act with an 8-year-old girl. 38% said it's a crime, 30% said it's not a crime, and 30% were unsure. And again, like, I know that we're talking in regards to the Truman Show, but like this applies to so many different areas too, because when everybody got all mad at me for criticizing Melanie Martinez and what she just does in general, yeah, like the studies, it's adding up. And this is from 2020, by the way. So yeah, 95% of this group thought that, yeah, that's a crime to actually see a real image of a child being abused. But only 38, all that number dropped down to 38 when it was a cartoon. Okay. An image of a naked 1-year-old in a bath, such as might be found in a family photo album. 9.5 says it's a crime. Thank you, that 9.5. 73% says it's not, and 17% are unsure. And that right there, that is why I do not keep any indecent images of my children in a physical form on my phone. Nothing. There's, in my opinion, literally no reason to have images like that of your child anywhere at all, if for no other reason then who knows, like if you're like 70, okay, or like you die and somebody's like going to your house like for the estate sale or something, and they stumble across your family photo album, and now I know you'd be dead, but I feel like I don't want that to happen. You know, like what if those photos got into the wrong hands, or there's like an iCloud leak or something like that? I don't want that to happen. And it's so surprising to me that 73%, well, not really surprising, wouldn't see that as a crime. And it technically isn't a crime, but it's still something that shouldn't be online. Like I hate the normalization of naked children. Okay, like it is normal that children do get naked, but like it's normal also for adults to get naked. That doesn't mean that we should be posting it and stuff like on the general whatever. Like just stop it with the naked kids. Like, come on. An online video of a naked 8-year-old sleeping. The video focuses on their bottoms and is set to a pop song about sexual activity. 90% says that is a crime. 3% say that is not a crime. What is going on with you guys? Hello. In scenario 8, an online video of a cartoon characters that look like naked 8-year-olds sleeping. The video focuses on their bottom, blah, blah, blah. Same scenario, just cartoonized. 36% say yes, that is a crime. 26% say that no, it's not a crime. Guess what? It is. It is a crime. A covertly filmed video of a public change room with men and young boys getting dressed and undressed. Covertly filmed video. 91% say yes, that is a crime. 4% say that's not a crime, and 4% say I don't know. It goes on to say, as shown in table 1, which is the table that I just showed you, only a handful of participants did not know or were unsure whether it was a crime to deliberately view images depicting explicit activity involving a real child. Like that's crazy to me. Or recognize images involving a real child. Levels of knowledge were lowest for scenario 2, 8, and 3. almost a third of participants failed to recognize it was a crime to view explicit cartoon CEM. Between a quarter and a fifth of participants failed to recognize that it was a crime to view cartoon CEM and read an explicit chat post, respectively. For each scenario, an additional proportion of participants reported that they did not know if it was a crime to view or read the materials described in scenarios 2, 8, and 3. So this is table 3, and it's kind of hard to explain. Again, I really encourage you guys to go read this study yourself. But basically, it's asking the participants if certain materials are going to cause harm to the child, to the victim, except they choose to not use the word harm because they want to make it as like a neutral feel to get them to be as honest as possible, like no bias, to have no bias. So they, instead of saying harm, say effect. Do you think that this could have an effect on the child? And here is what they found. As table 3 shows, proportions of participants denied that deliberately viewing an image of a real child being used would have an effect within each of the 4 thematic categories: the viewer, offenders, society, and the child victim. Within these categories, an additional proportion of participants reported that they were unaware of any effect. Example, I don't know. The denial of effect was greatest for the unknowing child victim. 40% of participants denied any effect in the absence of knowledge, and a further 6% of participants reported that they were unaware of any effect in this category. And I just have to say, that one's like, it's pretty triggering for me to like read that and just to see tangible evidence of how uneducated people are, because I'm not trying to say this to be mean if like you're listening and you're one of those uneducated people. I'm saying it because I've seen it directly affect my life. Like I get told, I have not anymore, but I have been told in the past, that what happened to me with my stepdad was only it had nothing to do with trafficking or exploitation at all, simply because I didn't go somewhere else to do the things that happened. It was all at my house. And because I didn't like sit there and pose for a camera completely naked, that it wasn't child explicit material. And because I did not receive cash in hand or like watch my stepdad receive cash in hand for the content that he was making of me, it's not trafficking. But that's just not true, as we can see in the study. And actually, people believing that has such an effect that they think that a child that was like in my position, who I don't know when he was recording me, I don't know how many images and videos he may have of me, I don't know where they are, I have no idea. I just know that it did happen. And I'll have people like you clearly, you can see in the study, there are a lot of people who genuinely think, oh, well, if the kid's unaware, then it doesn't affect them. It does. It does. I have CPTSD, and it is debilitating. Is that the right word? Debilitating. I struggle every single day. It haunts me. It literally feels like there is like a ghost just following me around, and I've been able to make peace with my ghost. Don't get me wrong. I have a very happy life, but it absolutely does affect. And I'm so thankful for this study because it really just like it pulls out people's like real thoughts, like who would just openly admit that, like in a conversation, just be like, yeah, I don't believe kids who don't know that they were being abused are actually harmed. Table 3 further shows that following the category of the unknowing child victim, participants were least likely to identify an effect from viewing child explicit material involving Table 3 further shows that following the category of the unknowing child victim, participants were least likely to identify an effect from viewing CEM involving a real child within the thematic effect categories of other offenders. In comparison, participants were most likely to identify an effect within the thematic effect categories of the knowing child victim and the viewer. In addition, in comparison to material depicting a real child, fewer participants identified an effect within each of the thematic effects categories for cartoon CEM. The study then goes on to try to like make some connections and see like, okay, like what are the kinds of people who are saying these things don't affect? And so they use different variables like adult pornography use, P2P use, and gender. And here is what they found. Consistent with previous research, study participants had a high degree of knowledge about the criminality of viewing images involving real children. This suggests that the criminality of viewing these materials is widely known among internet users. For the opportunistic offender, this finding is reassuring. It suggests that such behavior is likely to be regarded as strictly criminal. Yet, and in line with previous research, more than 2 in 5 participants failed to recognize or did not know that reading written CEM was a crime. For cartoon CEM, this proportion increased to 3 in 5 participants. This may suggest that a large proportion of internet users regard these behaviors as having ambiguous criminality, or that they are simply not criminal. For the opportunistic offender, the inference is that deliberately viewing written CEM or cartoon CEM for the first time will be an easier decision than viewing CEM of real children. It may be argued that it is the viewing images of real children that attracts predominant concern, and as a result, a lack of knowledge about the criminality of reading written CEM and viewing cartoon CEM is less important. Underlining this, while the term explosion has been used to refer to the amount of fictitious CEM created in the United States since 2010, there is a lack of robust data about the availability and accessibility of written CEM or cartoon CEM online. Even so, under federal law, these behaviors are crimes, as noted above. And looking ahead, at least one study suggests that written CEM may be a stepping stone or pathway to viewing of material involving a real child. And the last thing I'm going to say from this study that I think is very important is this. Focusing on the unknowing child victim, as noted above, results of the logistic regression for this category suggest that all other factors being equal, participants who used adult pornography were twice as unlikely to identify an effect on the unknowing child compared with participants who did not use adult pornography. If this finding is replicated and shown to be robust in further independent research, this would suggest that individuals who use legal pornography are at an increased risk of onset. This is underlined by research indicating that it is not uncommon for individuals who view adult pornography to encounter opportunities to view child explicit material. And the risk of onset increases if an individual encounters CEM while in a sexually aroused state. So the next time somebody wants to make fun of you for being anti-porn or say that, you're too fragile and you're a snowflake or a prude or anything like that, you can show them that study and be like, brother, you watch porn? That makes you so much more likely to accidentally stumble upon child explicit material and actually seek it out yourself. So at least we're keeping ourselves safe, I guess. I don't know. We obviously don't know what goes on behind closed doors in houses like Miss Shirley, if you will, or Ren Eleanor. But I do believe even if all we are seeing is all that's happening, like all of the highlights that is their life 24/7, I still think that you're harming your kid because you are monetizing their childhood. You are making their childhood a job. And on top of that, you are putting all of their personal information out to the world. Now, no, I'm not talking about a social security card. I'm talking about their likes, their dislikes, their personality. There may be things that they don't want the whole world to know about. And I think that you should care about that. I really do. I don't care. Honestly, I don't care about how much it pays. I'm sure it's a lot, but they deserve privacy and they deserve the chance to figure out who they are as an individual and not who the entire world wants them to be or who you want them to be. I think it's wrong. You are literally putting your children through the Truman Show. I stand by that 100%. And I think all parents should watch the Truman Show who post their kids online and think twice about it. Seriously. And if you're defending this kind of behavior, if you're defending exploitation, ask yourself, would you be one of the participants from that study who couldn't clock where harm would come? They couldn't clock that, oh yeah, this is going to affect the child. This could harm the child. Would you also be one of those people who say what happened to me wasn't even a crime or really wasn't even that bad because of the situation and circumstances of my experience with being exploited? We need to realize that these things are serious and that these things are seriously going to harm children, and it's only a matter of time before we finally have studies as physical proof to validate everything that we've been saying. And yeah, somebody needs to get on that. But I guess none of these child stars are like really 18 yet. So again, unfortunately, we have to wait. I hope this video made sense, and I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me. I hope you guys are having a great Sunday. And thank you guys again for hanging out with me. Please like and subscribe. That's what I was trying to say. Don't forget to like and subscribe and comment your thoughts. Do you agree with me? Am I being too dramatic? Is my trauma just talking? Am I speaking out too much from my own trauma that I maybe haven't processed or healed from? Let me know your thoughts down below. This is kind of like a different video. It's like a little bit of a conspiracy theory video, if you will. But no, I'm really just like, I'm trying to draw these comparisons and stuff because I think that genuinely this is really important. And I think that genuinely, like, kids deserve to just be kids quietly and privately in their own world, not this world that you've created for them. But yeah, let me know your guys' thoughts down below, and I will see you guys on the next one.